the record. Thank you. So hello, everyone. I am Lolita Atkins. I am the program manager at the Undergraduate Research Center, and I work with the California Alliance for Minority Participation. It's the CAMP program. I also work with the Mentorship for Undergraduate Research Participants in the Mathematical and Physical Sciences, or MURPPS, and I work with the Innovation Institute for Food and Health. And I'm also the staff advisor for the SACNAS Davis chapter. So it is my pleasure to welcome you to our graduate student panel that encompasses alumni from both the CAMP and MURPPS programs. So I'd like to introduce to our panel, and they'll also introduce themselves as well. But our first person is Marissa Gionet Gonzalez, who she is actually a graduate from UC Riverside, and she reached out to me as soon as she came to Davis, which is where she is finishing up her graduate degree. And she enjoyed the CAMP program so much that she wanted to give back. So she has been a wonderful volunteer and mentor, and she serves on panels like today. So I do want to thank her for that. Also, the next person is Melvin Lorenzo. And Melvin, he holds a very special place in my heart. We go way back. As a matter of fact, he was a part of the first cohort when I took my position here at the Undergraduate Research Center. Next is Harold Marin. Then we have Brian Morales, Christopher Ochoa, Julia Owen, Tony Moreno, Arturo Sandoval. And again, these are all my people. I love working with them, and I am just really proud of what they've accomplished so far and what I know that they're going to do in the future. So without further ado, we're going to start first with Marissa. And if you just go ahead and follow the prompts, I'll let you go ahead and go through. We'll go through the first 6 questions. We'll go through the whole round of everyone, and then we'll finish up with the remaining questions as well. Marissa?
Hi, yeah, sounds good. So I'll just do the first 4 bullet points. Is that it?
Or go ahead and finish 6. All 6.
Oh, okay. All the questions.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my name is Marissa, and I'm a 5th-year PhD student currently. And as Lolita said, I'm from UC Riverside. And I actually was in camp at Riverside, and that's kind of what inspired me to help out a lot here and at the UC Davis camp. And so I guess just a brief synopsis of my own background. So I'm a first-generation Hispanic student, and I started an undergrad not really knowing what I was doing. And I know I was really interested in medical science, so I thought I wanted to go to med school. However, I got involved with camp, and I figured out what undergraduate research was. I figured out what grad school was, and that kind of inspired me to get on the track that I am now. And then how I decided what graduate school to go to, well, I looked at a lot of different programs, and I think what was a deciding factor was obviously the mentors or the people that I wanted to work with. So I looked at different labs, and I found that there were a lot of different labs that I was interested in. So if there was one lab that potentially was not taking students, I had a lot of options. So I really liked that at UC Davis. Also, the location was good. I wanted to stay in California because this is where my family is. And then, let's see. So I guess like applying, I applied a little more broadly, but in choosing, that's kind of like how I chose. As for funding, I actually applied for the NSF GRFP my senior year of undergrad, and I was lucky enough to receive that. So that helped a lot with my funding for grad school. And I do encourage anyone who wants to go into grad school or thinking about it to try and apply your senior year of undergrad. And so that definitely helped for most of it. And then I also got an NIH diversity supplement that also helped, which was through my PI's grant. And then as for how I work with my professor, so I'd say it's kind of intermediate, so he's not super hands-on or hands-off. We have bi-weekly meetings, so I give him like any new data I have or ask him any questions there, or if I have any questions during the week, we have, email and Slack. So it's very easy to contact him whenever I need to. And that's kind of the level that I personally like. I know other people are different. Some people want a professor that's a little more hands-on, who's like sometimes even in the lab with them. And then some people want like a professor that's hands-off and like they don't even see for like months. So like there's definitely a balance there, depending on what your personal preference is. And then I really like my graduate program. I think everyone is very collaborative and very helpful. I guess the only thing I don't like personally about my lab is that I would really appreciate a lab manager, because there's a lot of ordering and chores, and there's a lot of machines that break down constantly that I think a lab manager would be great for. So if that is something that you don't like dealing with, try to look for a lab with a lab manager, because that definitely helps a lot. But yeah, I think with that, I answered all the questions.
Great, thank you, Marissa.
Yeah, no problem.
Is Melvin?
Yeah, I'm here. Hear me?
Yeah, if you can go ahead and just follow the prompts on the screen, that would be great.
Yeah, great. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Melvin Lorenzo. I'm currently also a fifth-year PhD student. I'm actually studying in Virginia Tech, so out of state. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I did my undergraduate at UC Davis. I was involved actually in kind of a long story, but I was actually involved in MURPPS when I started off like my first year, and then I did camp for 1 year. And then I don't know what the situation was there. But I joined camp again, like my last year with Lolita, and I don't know if I was allowed to do that, but Lolita is awesome. Everybody at the camp and MURPPS program is just absolutely amazing, phenomenal. Definitely helped me get to where I am now. So my background, I'm a first generation like college student. My parents immigrated from Guatemala when they were teenagers, and they themselves didn't really have a high education. And when they came here, they weren't, just because they were, supporting my brothers and sisters, they weren't really able to pursue and follow their education. So for me, my parents always, prioritized me and my brothers, getting a higher education. And so, so obstacles. So maybe obstacles. One thing that's very, I think, unique to me, I think I went through a lot of challenges of being a first generation student, not really knowing what my path was in higher education. But another thing for me was when I was at the end of my second year of my undergraduate, I actually got diagnosed with cancer. It was acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And so, just throw in all of the challenges I had on top of being diagnosed with cancer, like it was pretty difficult for me to finish undergrad. So being involved with camp, and I think it was just, the perfect timing for me to join the camp program, because I remember it was Lolita's first year. And Lolita, I mean, I don't know if I ever really say this to you, but you've helped me so much. You were absolutely instrumental in me continuing my education, because I know a lot of the times I went, to doctor's appointments, and a lot of times I missed a lot of meetings because of that kind of stuff. But I mean, you were definitely there. So thanks for that. So that's my background. Exciting, noteworthy news. I'm going to defend my PhD like dissertation this March, so that's pretty exciting. How did I select the graduate programs I applied to? I kind of cast, I don't know if this is the best approach, but just because everything I went through in undergrad, going through chemotherapy and going to the doctor's appointments, my GPA kind of dropped off a little bit. So I felt I had to cast a wide net, which even now looking back, I don't know if that was the best thing to do, because I think I kind of I was spread myself a little bit too thin in terms of applying to graduate programs, but I think it did end up paying off in the end, because I got into like my top 3 universities. I actually ended up getting into like my dream school that I didn't end up going to for very personal reasons. What was the deciding, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, but what was the deciding factor for me to attend my current school? This is another crazy story. I met my advisor at a SACNAS conference, which I think some of you might have attended. Another sort of really perfect timing situation. I don't think I was supposed to go to the SACNAS conference, but Lolita managed to get funding for myself and Titus like last minute, absolutely last minute. And so me and my friend Titus ended up going to the SACNAS conference, at which I was just roaming around the grad school career fair, like just randomly roaming around, talking to people, just because, you know, that's what I like to do. And I bumped into into who is now my current PI, like my PhD advisor, Dr. Rafael Davalos, just completely randomly. Like I was not intending to meet my future professor, but we met at the conference. We hit it off. We had a really good conversations, and it was because of that, me going to that SACNAS conference and Lolita just literally securing that funding at the very last minute, that I actually met my PhD advisor. And part of the reason why I ended up not going to like my dream school was because I met the professor that I thought would give me just the best opportunities in absolutely everything I wanted. I received a 4-year fellowship to go to Virginia Tech, which was part of the reason why I chose to go to Virginia Tech. It was fully funded. And so that was definitely one of the biggest, or not one of the biggest, but that was a major reason why I ended up choosing to go there, on top of just the research that I was doing. And it's enough to live on. Virginia Tech is in Blacksburg, Virginia, which is not really expensive. Cost of living is actually super, super cheap compared to California. My professor is really hands off, and that is not, that's not the mentor style that I envisioned. I imagined, you know, working, you know, side by side and next to a professor, but that is not how it ended up working out. But my first year was pretty tough because, again, being a first generation, not really knowing what was fully expected. Like I did undergraduate research, and, you know, I think I fit in pretty well to that. So that helped me. Doing undergraduate research, attending a lab that's pretty hands-on, helped me get prepared to work with an advisor who's a little bit more hands-off. But in the end, I ended up working really well with my advisor. My graduate program is not very diverse. That's the one downside, and there's nothing I can really do about that. But I do meet up with the local like SHEP chapter, that's Society of Hispanic Professionaires. I try to get involved with a lot of outreach programs in the university and just any diversity and recruitment efforts. So that's what I like to do. But thank you everyone for listening.
I just wanted to say really quickly, Melvin is amazing. Like he would literally go to his chemotherapy appointments, and then hours later he would be in my office. So that's how determined he was, which for me was a great inspiration as well. So just moving right along, next we have Brian Morales. Brian, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. So my name is Brian Morales. Hi, Lolita, and hi, everybody else.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Hope everybody else is doing well too. So my name is Brian Morales, and I actually graduated from UC Davis with a master's, which is also the same institution where I did my undergraduate coursework. And so I graduated with a master's in civil and environmental engineering with a specific focus in geotechnical engineering. And I was an NSF camp member a couple years ago now, 2017, I think it was. So a brief synopsis or your background. So I'm first gen as well. And so kind of with first generation stuff, it's kind of figuring out, at least for me, it was figuring out where I wanted to do graduate school or not, because I wasn't really sure what graduate school was, what it meant, and all the different things that accompanied it. So I didn't decide until my 3rd year of undergrad that I was interested in even pursuing graduate school. Obstacles overcame. So first generation, so figuring out undergraduate and then kind of applying to graduate school and how the process looks like. I knew some people from undergrad that from right away they knew they wanted to go to grad school, but I wasn't one of them. I didn't really know what graduate school was. Exciting or noteworthy news. So I graduated. That was a couple months ago. I submitted a thesis and everything got approved. So that's, I guess, the end of that. And then I was also able to secure a full-time job. So now I'm working full-time. How did you select to graduate? So I first, like going into graduate school at least, I knew that I didn't want to do a PhD, but I also knew that I wanted to do research and ultimately get that research experience. And so the first thing that I did was look at different research schools. And so what that meant by asking professors and other graduate students like what programs are recommended, what kind of research there were out there, and also doing my own research and looking at the publications that were coming from different schools and the different fields of research that different schools specialized in. Because one of the biggest things is too that the different school will specialize in different things. And so if you want to learn more or explore more of a specific topic, then maybe you have to apply to that one school that does it. And also with that was I knew that I wanted to research, so I looked at big at facilities. So for example, Davis has the Center for Geotechnical Modeling, which is the one of the largest centrifuges in the country. And so that's kind of what inclined me to apply to Davis. And I did the same thing for the other schools, and I applied to schools that were heavy on research and that allowed master students to do research as well. And the deciding factor for me to pursue or to go to Davis was funding. I was at the end, I was debating between two schools that I really wanted to go, one of them being Davis. And ultimately, I selected Davis because I was guaranteed funding for both years. And at the other school, I wasn't guaranteed funding. I wasn't even guaranteed a project. So with that much uncertainty, I was not sure that I wanted to go to the other school, but Davis guaranteed me funding and a project, so which was very nice. And the type of funding that I received, so I was fully funded for both years. And so the first year I received an NSF fellowship, and that covered the tuition and also gave me a monthly stipend. And then the second year I was a TA for a quarter and a graduate student researcher for 2 quarters. And this also covered my expenses and it also gave me a stipend. So all in all, I was able to live off of both types of funding, so both the fellowship and the TA and graduate student researcher. And so that included being able to pay for rent, and I even had some money left over, so I didn't have to take out any loans. And how closely did I work with my professor? It was kind of a mix of both. So we would meet frequently since my project was a centrifuge project, so there was a lot of moving components to it. So we would meet often to discuss the big picture stuff, but on the day-to-day basis, it was me doing most of the work. So anytime that something, I guess, was in the greater scope of the project, I would be with my advisor, but everything else I had to do independently. So any quick decisions that had to be made on the spot, I made on my own, and then I would document it and tell my advisor. What I like about my graduates, what I liked about my graduate program was that how open and helpful everybody was. So that includes the faculty and also the other graduate students. I could always go to any one of them and talk to them about anything. And yeah, so that's the answer to those first 6 questions.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Did we also, Harold Marin, I think I skipped you earlier.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Harold, and I use he, him pronouns. I am a current 3rd year PhD in the Tetrad graduate program at UCSF. And I was an NSF camp like scholar back in 2016, I think it was 2015, 2016. I was with Melvin's class, and that's how we met. So a little brief about my background. I was originally born in Peru, and I came to the US when I was 11 years old. Didn't know any English, and so that was one of the first challenges that I had. I had to it took me like 3 years to get comfortable enough to actually talk, because I used to not talk at all. And that was during high school. I didn't really know, my parents had to start from zero here, so we didn't really know how to navigate the college system and SATs and all that stuff. So I actually went to community college after high school and decided to figure out my life then. And I started out as pre-med and then didn't really like it after volunteering at a couple clinics. I really enjoyed biology during my last year when I joined my first research lab, which was um, an aging lab. I then decided to transfer to UC Davis, where I was totally like on board to join like aging research, but a couple mentors told me that I should like branch out and look for other labs. So then I ended up in Frank McNally's lab at Davis, where we studied fetal meiosis in worms, and I thought that was like pretty cool. Um, I didn't really still know a lot about grad school when I had just transferred. I think as a transfer student, it was pretty hard to navigate like the 4-year institution because I only had like 2 years. So I felt like a freshman, even though it was a third year technically. Um, and so being part of camp was like really good because it like provided a lot of funding for like summer research and also like a lot of like awareness of what graduate school was. Um, and I still didn't feel prepared. So I decided to like not apply to grad schools and just continue to do research and trying to see if like grad school was really for me. So after I graduated from Davis, I worked at a lab as a lab manager slash technician for 2 years. And that was the time when I decided like, okay, yeah, I think I really want to do a PhD. I like science. Um, and it was good that I was like surrounded by grad students that could help me with that. How did I select my programs? I actually applied to like 6 programs, and I think like I wouldn't have applied to the programs that I applied if it hadn't been for my PI or boss when I was working, because he like really believed in me and he was like, you should apply to only like 5 or 6 because you can totally get in. And I was like, okay, if I don't get in, then you have to hire me because like it's just like I don't know what's gonna happen. So fortunately, I did get into all my programs that I applied, and in the end, I was deciding between UCSF and UC Berkeley. And what the deciding factor was for me really was like the collaborative environment and the diverse student body. And it was like, I don't know, I feel like both programs were really good. And in the end, it just came to like a gut feeling, uh, which like it turned out to be really good because I know friends in like my current class, but in Berkeley, who like, I don't know, did not have like, are not having, I guess, the same experiences that I am. And I really like the like closeness between faculty and students here. And for the most part, like, I don't know, I really like San Francisco. I love to cook Peruvian food, and I didn't really want to go to the East Coast where I couldn't find like some ingredients that I might need or like, yeah. Um, what type of funding do I receive? So fortunately for me, my graduate program is fully funded, and so I don't really have to worry about funding. Um, it's enough to live in San Francisco. Like it's pretty expensive to live here, but I think I'm a very frugal person, and so it's like enough for me. I know if like I know for some of my like classmates who have like more things to like pay, it's a little rough. Like it's really not enough money if you have like bills to pay and like a lot more stuff. I did not have to take out student loans, and that was like really fortunate for me, both in undergrad and grad school. I got fellowships and scholarships that paid for it. I would say I work very closely with my professor. It's very independent work, but she is a new PI, and so she like gives like a lot of attention to me and like my other lab mates. We meet like every week. We actually just had a meeting today, and we just go over like it doesn't necessarily have to be like a report, but it's just like we chat about like new projects and stuff. And um, I knew I wanted that when I started my rotations. I had worked with like kind of like every realm of like PI by this point, like hands on, hands off, in the middle, and I think I really wanted a lot of mentorship in my PhD, and so I'm very like happy with that decision. Um, and what do I guess what I really like about my program is that it's very collaborative, and the student body is very diverse. Even though like the faculty are not, the like at least like my current classmates are, and I really like that. And when I say collaborative, I mean I really like that I don't have to reinvent the wheel at all the times here, and usually that's like I don't know, I feel like sometimes grad school can feel very like isolating because you have to figure it all out yourself. But I like that I can just like go down the hall and someone is, you know, doing the same techniques that I'm trying to study, and they can just give me like guidance. And everyone's so friendly here that they'll like go out of their way to like give you reagents and give you like protocols. And I feel like the science can move faster that way because like I don't have to spend like, you know, a month figuring out something that someone already did, and so I can just get it done in like a week. And that's really nice. And I guess what I really dislike about my program is the classes. I think like some other graduate programs are a lot better about their training in terms of classes. Like our classes aren't really that great. And we have this like notoriously like bad class in tetrad where like people fail every year, and every class like someone complains that, you know, the class is not taught that well and the expectations are way too high and they never really change. So that's been kind of frustrating. But that's only really the first year of grad school, so if you can get through that, then it's pretty good.
Thank you, Harold. Okay, so next up we have Christopher Ochoa from UCLA. And we have a few more panelists after that. So we want to make sure that we get through at least the first 6 questions, and we may go a little over. So hopefully you're able to stay and hear or ask any questions that you may have of the panelists. So Christopher.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Lolita. Hi, all the UC Davis folks. My name is Christopher Ochoa. I'm a second-year graduate student currently at UCLA. I'm in the molecular biology program, and I study cell and developmental biology. And I was previously associated with the NSF CAMP program during my first year as a transfer student at UC Davis. Yeah, so just a brief synopsis of who I am. Like Harold, I was also a transfer student, so I came into UC Davis kind of with almost like, you know, like being a freshman again, and also being, you know, like first gen. Neither of my parents went to college, and just not having a lot of like idea of what college would be like, or research in general. I didn't even know that grad school was an option until right before coming to UC Davis. And so, yeah, I think that was a pretty big obstacle, and I felt very grateful for the program that first gave me experience into research, because I never really thought that it'd be possible, or that, you know, funding wouldn't be that big of an issue. And so, yeah, currently this is my second year, so I recently just joined my thesis lab, and so that was pretty exciting. It was pretty tumultuous. Had to choose between 2 different labs and had to make some tough decisions. But in the end, I felt like this was what would be best for me and best for the rest of my graduate school career. How did I select the graduate programs to which I applied? I am a California boy. My family lives in Northern California, and so I definitely wanted to stay in California. And I definitely thought it would be pretty different to go out and live somewhere else. Yeah, I love California. I love the environment as well as kind of the diversity. And so that narrowed it down. And so I just stuck to the UC system through and through. So I applied to pretty much just UCs. And in terms of the actual, like the science of the programs, I stuck to like molecular biologies, cell and developmental biology. So a lot of like molecular work. And what was the deciding factor for me attending my current institution at UCLA? I think it was probably the interview weekend that really sold it. After attending the interview weekend, I was able to like get like a really good idea of what the students and the professors, and it just felt very like warm and like welcoming, and like many people said, it was very like collaborative, and I felt that a lot, even just during a short like weekend experience. And so I was really that was like my hope, that I'd be able to like get accepted into UCLA. And I was very like grateful and very fortunate to be able to do it. And as soon as I found out, I pretty much just signed on right there. And so other than that, you know, like I mentioned, I wanted to stay in California. Also, you know, like the caliber of research that is done at UCLA is pretty like top notch, and So that definitely like drew me there. What type of funding did I receive? Unfortunately, I didn't get any external fellowships or external funding, but internally we're covered through UCLA. And so currently I'm funded by like a split between my like PI and also like the department itself. And fingers crossed, I applied to the NSF GRFP again this year. So hopefully I can get on that. UCLA has this really interesting policy where you can, if you get an external fellowship, you get an additional increase to your stipend. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if other programs do that. In terms of, is it enough to live on? So in terms of being covered, they additionally give us like a small stipend. I think it's pretty similar throughout the UCs. And, you know, LA is definitely more expensive than other places like Davis. So that definitely is something to consider. But I'm also like Harold was mentioning, I'm also a pretty like frugal person. And so I don't even live in like graduate housing. Like most of my, the other now second years or most people live in like graduate housing, which is way more expensive than where I'm living. So I haven't had to take out student loans, thankfully, and hopefully can keep going in that. How closely do I work with my professor? I'd say it's pretty hands-on. Like we are kind of, you know, like we're applying for this NSF fellowship. And so this project that I'm like working on is pretty like new to like both of us. And so we're kind of like brainstorming like back and forth. And so, yeah, like we did a lot of like work together to put that together. It wasn't like really established. And so we're still kind of even kind of in the beginning phases, you know, there's still a lot of like preliminary data to get. So I'm sure it'll like kind of transform as we go through like this PhD journey. Additionally, I'm actually her first graduate student, which is pretty interesting, and definitely something to think about and consider. But yeah, like beyond that, like it's definitely pretty independent. I'm able to work pretty independently beyond kind of just like checking in here and there. And but I appreciate it. She like keeps me on top of things. What do you like or dislike about your graduate school program? I like a lot about it. The school itself, the research capacity, the professors, especially my one of my department chairs. He's definitely one of the biggest factors in coming here. He definitely supports our cell and developmental group like through and through. And additionally, what do I dislike? Definitely probably the cost of living, you know, is higher than in Davis. So that's definitely something to consider. Other than that, yeah, I wouldn't say a whole lot. Like I really like UCLA. It's been a great experience. And definitely as a result of being a part of these programs like NSF Camp through UC Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Julia Owen.
Hi, everyone. Before I get going, Lolita, I think we are skipping over Tony. So we might want to.
Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. I actually reversed it. So that's great. Go ahead, and Tony. Thank you. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. Hi, everybody. I was just patiently waiting, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. My name's Tony Moreno. I'm a second year now at UCLA in the chemistry and biochemistry program. So I'm doing my PhD there, and I was a part of the MURPPS program during my time at UC Davis. So a little bit about my background. So I'm also like a first generation student. My family's from Mexico. My dad came here to the States undocumented from Mexico. And so they just kind of worked in the fields their whole life here in California, and that's kind of all my family knew. So I was the first one to really kind of change the game and go to college. And, you know, that came with its own struggles, trying to figure out, navigate. I went to community college. And I mean, I think for a period of about like 2 years, I had to ride a bus like an hour just to get to school. And yeah, so it was a struggle. I didn't really know about grad school until I transferred to Davis, and I knew I wanted to do undergraduate research. But my PI was the first one to say, hey, you know, what grad schools are you applying to? Or, you know, what are you thinking about? And I just, it's like, what? Oh, I don't think I can afford that. He's like, no, if you get a PhD, they'll pay for you. So yeah, just again, figuring that whole thing out. Let's see, some exciting or noteworthy news. So I guess most recently in lab, I've just finished up synthesizing a potential new antiarrhythmia lead molecule. So that's been exciting for me. Let's see, how did I select my graduate program? I guess it was, I applied to a bunch of out-of-state schools during my kind of senior year because I was like, yeah, let's try something different. But during that year, a lot changed. Just some health things with my family, a couple of people passed away, and also I like met somebody. So a lot of different things changed. And so I took a gap year, and then I was like, you know what, I really wanted to stay in California. I just wanted to stay closer to my family and also kind of see things out with my partner. And so I applied to California schools, and at the end it was in between UC Irvine and UCLA. And I just liked the facilities and the faculty a little more at UCLA. I got just a better impression from the faculty here. So deciding factor, yeah, I guess it would be, yeah, the faculty here. I guess I'll talk a little bit about how I did kind of sort through these schools. My professor gave me a website that's like semi-regularly updated with kind of current professors in the field. And so I scanned that, made a PDF, and then I kind of looked into each schools and the professors that were at each of those schools, and I rated them on like how well I liked their research. And so that's kind of my method that I used. And I feel like it was pretty helpful because I had a better understanding of the departments I was applying to. So yeah, deciding factor, again, faculty. I also, during my visitation weekend, got to see Emma Stone. She was just at the hotel bar that we were at. So everybody kind of was like, oh my God. Wasn't a deciding factor, but it was pretty cool. I actually didn't get any other external fellowships other than just the, I get paid for being a TA, and that's enough to live on here for me. I live in family housing, which is nice because it's cheaper than anything else around here. And again, I don't have a lot of bills, kind of like Harold mentioned and Christopher. So that helps a lot living in LA because it can be expensive. So I see my professor about once a month. We have like a one-on-one. But she's also the type that likes to just come through lab and say hi and see what you're working on. So I wouldn't say that I don't work closely with her necessarily, but I do see her semi-often. What do I dislike or like about my current grad program? I really do like just how collaborative things are, the different facilities that we have. There's just a lot of collaboration in my department. I guess the thing that I dislike, during the first year, just one class in particular was just, I think, not very well taught. I took a similar class at Davis, and it was just so much better. And so I had something to compare it to, and I was just like, wow, it's just a lot different. And so I wish a lot of people felt the same way, and I wish they would do something about revamping those first year classes. But it's not bad once you get through that first year. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Tony. Okay, so now we'll hear from Julia.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Julia. I am a grad student here at UC Davis. I am a third-year PhD student, and I study population genetics and genomics for wildlife conservation. And I was previously an NSF Camp scholar. Okay, a brief synopsis of my background. So I took a really non-linear path to get to where I am. And I'm sure many people are kind of in a similar boat, but let's see, I went to college at San Diego State for 1 year after I graduated high school. And I think I just was not ready for that responsibility yet. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was distracted by all of the new life things that come with being 18 and 19. And so I left school. I moved to Los Angeles. So for you, all of the UCLA people, I hear you. LA is great. It's so much fun. But so I was out of school for about 5 years. I was figuring myself out. I was working full time. And then I started to figure out, oh, okay, I think I do want to go back to school. I had worked enough and saved up enough money so that I could go to community college. I paid my way through community college and then transferred to Davis, where I finished my undergrad in animal biology. And that's where I joined camp. I started undergraduate research, and I was discovering all of these things about research and about possibilities with grad school. And then I decided to stay at UC Davis for grad school. I know that's kind of an unpopular thing to do, staying at the same school that you've been at for undergrad. But for many reasons, it was kind of the right choice for me. And I guess I'll get into that a little later. But then I started my first couple years in grad school in one project, and the funding for that project kind of got disrupted. And so I am now, as a third year, starting a new project, which will actually be my dissertation project. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm grateful too that I've got kind of a wider experience in my field than I thought I would. And I've really gotten to choose what it is that I want to study. So that's kind of exciting. Another exciting thing, I will be taking my qualifying exam at the end of this school year. Yes, so I am terribly nervous, but also really excited to kind of pass that threshold and be officially, you know, on my way to a PhD. Even though you think that when you get into grad school that you're already kind of on your way. But okay, so anyway, that's kind of my background. So I selected this graduate program. So this is the graduate program in ecology. Because in my field of specifically of genetics and genomics for wildlife, it's not a huge field and there aren't very many labs to choose from. And UC Davis happens to have one of the best programs for what I'm doing. I'm in one of the best labs for what I'm doing. And I already kind of had a lot of experience with my advisor because I interned in the lab. And so this was my number one choice. I got in and it was kind of a no-brainer for me to want to stay. I was also a little bit older. Like I said, I had taken the pretty substantial gap from school before I went back to undergraduate school. So I wasn't really in a place where I wanted to move around again. And the type of funding. So I came into my graduate program with a funded project through the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I was studying population genetics of black bears in Lake Tahoe. And it was such a cool project. They were funding me and it was great. But the state got messed up a little bit with the funding that they had, and they weren't able to continue my funding, unfortunately. So now I TA, which actually I'm really grateful for because I have strong feelings about teaching, and I think I want to be a teacher and a professor once I graduate. And so it's been really great experience. It does pay not the best, but I am able to live off of it. And I'm actually I've been working all day on writing a grant proposal for my newer project. So there's definitely still a lot of opportunities to get funding after you're already a graduate student. Let's see, I did not take out any student loans. And how closely do you work with your professor? I work pretty closely with my professor and my entire lab. We all work on different systems, from wolves in Asia to foxes all around the world. I'm currently working on a project for spotted skunks on the Channel Islands. And so we all do different things, but we think about similar things, similar processes. And so we do a lot of collaborating, whether that's in like weekly lab meetings or we also have journal clubs. We basically just can't get enough of what we do in our field. So we work together pretty closely. I also meet with my advisor one-on-one once a week. When I started graduate school, I had a lot of feelings of imposter syndrome. I'm also a first generation college student. And so kind of echoing what some of the other panel members have said, there's some difficulties with not knowing how to traverse graduate school or traverse undergraduate. And so it's been a huge benefit for me to be able to meet with my professor one-on-one or my advisor one-on-one. And he's really been able to adjust his level of advising to kind of fit my own needs. So that's definitely something that you want to think about when you're choosing an advisor. What I like or dislike about my current program, I love my program. Oh my gosh, the people in the graduate group in ecology are fantastic. The students are all super, super supportive. So are the faculty members. One thing I think can be improved is the diversity in the faculty. We're definitely working on having a more diverse group of students. And we've been doing a lot of outreach and things like that, but especially for wildlife, this field is definitely dominated by older white men, and that is starting to change. And I want to see that represented in our graduate group. But otherwise, I love my graduate program and I love how supportive everyone is.
Great. Thank you, Julia. And next we have up Arturo Sandoval.
All right. It's funny how we all share a lot of things in common. My name's Arturo Leon Sandoval. I'm a third-year grad student. I current field study. So I'm a chemistry PhD student. I was in MURPPS, similar with Tony, actually in the same year as Tony, if I remember right. So a brief synopsis and background. So I immigrated into the US illegally back in 2003. Did my entire 5th, 6th year, then everything from there up to high school. At high school, I ended up becoming a legal resident of the US, but I still didn't know anything about college. So I ended up going into the fields and working one summer in there. And let's just say, it's not a pleasant thing to do, and that's kind of what forced me into school, because it's one thing that you do not want to do if you don't have to. So I went into community college with the money I earned and got a different job. So got into community college, did my 2.5 years at community college, moved on to Davis, and at Davis I ended up getting the opportunity of working at a working with a research professor with the help of MURPPS to help me pay through with some of the compensations that they provide you so that you can participate in the summer research programs. So that's a little bit of my background. The obstacles, again, being a first-year college student, you don't know what you want to do or where you're headed. All you knew is you have to take certain classes to meet your general education. And then after that, everything's kind of just a blur because there's no strict line to get you to that ideal job or ideal place that you want to be. Some exciting or noteworthy news. I just sent in the revisions for my 3rd paper, so hopefully that gets published soon. So for how I selected my graduate program, that's a funny one. So I didn't apply to too many grad schools. I only applied to Davis and to University of Connecticut. And the only reason I really applied to University of Connecticut was when I went to SACNAS, thanks to Lolita and MURPPS, back in 2017. And as I was walking around the conference, I was talking to someone that went with us about a problem I had with a computational, because I used to do a lot of computational work. And out of nowhere, a professor from University of Connecticut jumped in and said, hey, I heard that you were doing with this kind of work. I also work with computational stuff like that. Do you mind talking to me for a little bit? And so we talked and ended up getting a waiver for the application. And basically it was easy. It was super easy. It was just literally send a carbon copy of my already existing UC Davis application, sent it, got accepted. However, I didn't get accepted into Davis, which was my preference, but since I didn't have any other options, I mean, it's pretty good. So that's how I ended up deciding my program. What was your deciding factor? Again, my deciding factor was simple. It was either go to grad school at University of Connecticut or go to industry. And after finishing a year of research, I really got interested in research at Davis. I got interested in going deeper into what academic research could provide. I mean, another thing, I guess, is not just literally the only option. The research group that I'm working with its entire purpose is to develop new methodologies for chemistry. So I have access to, I've learned how to use a lot of microwave technologies, photoreactors, computational chemistry, which is the thing I enjoyed, flow systems, and other stuff like that. So we're trying to develop new ways of doing chemistry with different technologies in order to reduce our chemical waste that we produce. What type of funding do I receive? Sadly, I applied for the NSF GRFP, didn't get it. However, I got in and I got a TA-ship. And honestly, after the first semester, I really enjoyed it. I enjoy working with students, so I didn't mind not getting any type of funding like fellowships and stuff like that, because I really enjoy the work with students. The pay is not bad. I mean, you do have to be frugal, but with what you're paid, you can live off of it. And I'm even paying a card with it, so it's not horrible. You just have to be frugal. Have you taken any student loans? No, just the car loan. That's all the loans I've taken in my entire life. How closely do you work with professors? So ever since I started research, my PIs have been kind of hands off. So my PI at Davis was Dean Tantillo. He's kind of a computational person. You kind of just talk to him in group meetings. And apart from that, you just talk to people within the lab. The lab I'm in right now is very, very similar to that, where the professor is not in the lab at all. He sends you an email or so every now and then, and you just work and get your work done. However, when it comes to getting paperwork done, papers published and stuff like that, he is on top of you because he wants you to get the stuff done so that it doesn't distract you from anything else. So it's both a very hands-off professor, but at the same time, he will not let you slack off on the writing portion of your stuff. So he is very hands-on on that part. And I actually enjoy it because I'm a horrible English writer. So it helps a lot. What do you like? So in my first year, I guess my entire cohort was unlucky that most of our first year professors had gotten jobs in other places. So they really didn't care for the classes they were teaching that year. So we ended up getting really, really poor quality teaching just because they were like, I mean, you're here, just get a passing grade, you'll be fine. So that was the sad news about it. However, new professors came in, they seem to be enjoying the work a lot better. So that's probably the only thing I really dislike. Apart from that, the entire cohort is very collaborative. That's the only reason I've actually gotten to my third paper to this point, because we collaborate quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I try to rush through this because I know it's also kind of late, so I don't know if I miss anything.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you all. I do want to be mindful of the time. I know it's already after the hour, but there's some additional questions. We'd like to go through them. So if you can stay a little later, especially to our panelists, I would appreciate that. And then also we're hoping that the students can ask questions of the panelists as well. So if you don't mind, if you do have to bow out, I understand, but we're gonna just go ahead and continue just because it's really great information, especially for those of you who are considering graduate school. So on to the next questions, and we'll start with Marissa.
hi again. So yeah, let me look at these questions. So yeah, how's my participation in undergraduate research been beneficial? I think it's super beneficial because it kind of gives you a chance to experience what like a taste of graduate school is like. You also get to interact with so many grad students, and you get to talk with them and figure out what their life is like. And that really helps you figure out if graduate school is right for you. So that helped me a lot. I worked a lot in the lab, and a lot of what I did not work out. So I think that's a really a good lesson to learn very early, is that a lot of the research you do is not going to work. And it's going to be sad sometimes, but you have to like push through, and you have to be able to dissociate the research not working with you and make sure that your self-worth is not in your research. So I did not take a gap year. So I don't have to talk about that, but I think a gap year could be a good idea, especially if you don't get into a grad program that you want immediately after. So if that happens, you can definitely build up your resume, either go into industry, go into a different lab, become more competitive, and then apply again next year. So that's definitely something I know other people have done, and it can be a good idea for some people, for sure. Yeah, something that I wish I knew that when I started grad school, I guess, is that it can be isolating, and it can be like difficult because you're thrown into this new environment, and you kind of have to prove yourself, or you feel like you have to prove yourself to people sometimes. And I know that can be really intimidating. And so I think some advice is just to know, like, everyone's going through the same thing, like all the first year grad students, and to just, you know, try your best and don't stress about things as much. And then so for after graduate school, I'm actually interested in becoming a professor. So I'm currently looking at different postdocs. And so I went to some virtual conferences, and I've talked to some professors that I'm interested in potentially doing postdoc for their lab. So that's been pretty interesting, and I'm actually applying for a few postdoctoral fellowships. Yeah, and then I guess just general advice for people who are looking into graduate school. I just, you know, make sure you know what you're getting into. You know, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. You're going to do a lot of work, and it's not always going to work out. It's going to be a lot of troubleshooting. So just know what you're getting into, and make sure it's what you want. Make sure you have a clear career goal at the end. People don't want to hear like, oh, I'm just going to grad school because the economy's bad and I have nothing else to do. You know, you have to have a clear reason why you're there. And I think that will motivate you to want to finish. And if you don't have that, you may not finish. But yeah, so that's what I've got.
Great, thank you, Marissa. Next up is Melvin.
Hi, everyone. So my participation in undergrad, again, I didn't really know what grad school even really was. I kind of, I don't know, this was, again, the best thinking. I always knew I wanted to do grad school. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. Like, I wanted to be called doctor. I didn't really have an idea of what that meant or what that entailed, but I think I can be really stubborn sometimes. And I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. Undergraduate research and working with graduate students definitely, you know, helped me figure out what it actually meant to be a PhD student. Like Marissa just said, you know, things sometimes don't work out, and you know, when you fail at something a lot, sometimes it can be very discouraging. So just having the I don't know what just like tenacity, maybe. Just, you know, keeping on going when things don't work out. That's definitely something I learned. One of the more basic things is just knowledge of like the literature, reading the papers, and getting familiar with that is key in any field that you go into. Because if you don't know the background of what's been done in the field, you know, it's hard to be successful when you don't do that. So just getting to know graduate school and just getting to know the literature, I guess. Just those things I learned. I didn't take a gap year. I went from the BS straight to the PhD. What do you know now that you wish? I don't know. What do I know now?
It's okay to skip that question.
I'll skip that one. After graduate school, so a lot of my work is translational in nature. So I've been working with a startup company. Our goal is to take the technology that we're working in and eventually translate it for human use. So we've conducted preclinical trials in large animal models. After grad school, I was debating on whether to do academia or industry, basically. And I think right now would be a really cool opportunity for me to start working with the FDA or meet with the FDA. So my plans are to work with that company to translate the therapy that we're developing to be used in human patients that have brain tumors, so we can treat brain tumors. What advice? I didn't know how much you can travel, so I don't know. I work really hard a lot sometimes. I found it really cool and awesome that there are a lot of opportunities for you to travel. So take advantage of, doing your work and submitting abstracts to conferences. I've been very fortunate to go to France, to go to Slovenia, to go to Dublin, Ireland, and I've traveled a lot in the US completely free. And on one of those trips, I got so many grants, I low-key got paid $2,000 to go to France, completely paid for. I had my own suite at the very top level that had a balcony overseeing like downtown in Toulouse. It was amazing. So I mean, when you go to grad school, it's not going to be, it's just very different from undergrad. You work hard, things are not going to work. It's going to be very discouraging, but I think you got to know what like exactly what Marisha was saying. You got to know what you're signing yourself up for, but there are definitely positives. I've never traveled so much in my life. It has been absolutely amazing. So.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next up is Harold.
Hi. And I do have to head out at like 8:20, so I'm glad that I can finish this one. Undergraduate research was very good for me. Yeah, like just being surrounded by graduate students, especially because it got me a sense of like what it would be like to be in graduate school. And actually it was one of the reasons why I kind of like didn't go right away, because I was in a lab with older grad students who, it was like, they're not like the most excited students sometimes. And so it kind of like me like, to really think about whether I wanted to, do this long journey. But it got me really comfortable with like doing like research, like the physical aspect of like learning techniques, and that goes into like question 8. So teching for 2 years like was really good for me because it built a lot of my confidence and just like the physical aspect of doing science, which is like troubleshooting, doing things over and over again and failing many times. But being as a first year grad student, I feel like that was something that didn't shock me a lot, and it was very good for my first year. I would totally tech again. Like I would totally take a gap year. It was nice to be 22 and in San Francisco without having to do homework and stuff. I wish I would have, I guess, taken some more like travel. Yeah, I guess like traveling in grad school is fun. I didn't get to do it, and I wish I would have done more of that, especially now because of COVID. I wish I would have taken time to like have more fun things instead of like being in lab. I am currently a lot interested in like teaching, and I think just from my background being in community college, that was such a great experience for me. And there really is a lot of good teaching that happens at community colleges. And so I think I want to be a professor either at a small college or a community college. That's my current plan right now. And for someone who's thinking about going into grad school right now, I would advise like the same as like what a person before me said, like make sure you really want to do it and talk to people that are currently doing it at every single aspect. Like talk to first years and like third years and fifth years and someone who just graduated, whether it was something that you really want to do it, because it's long, and if you're just hating yourself for like 6 years, that sucks. Like you don't have to do that to yourself. So get all the info and make sure you really want to do it for the right reasons.
Thank you. So next up is Brian.
Okay, hello everybody again. I do have to take off after this as well, but I'll answer the remaining of these questions. So how has your participation benefit you? So I think it was very crucial to do undergraduate research. And as most of us have mentioned, we're like first generation, so we don't know what, or I didn't really know what graduate school was. So kind of doing that undergraduate research helped me participate and collaborate with other graduate students and also with professors. So I was able to talk to them one-on-one and then kind of see what the workload of graduate students and what kind of research they did, how much time they spend in lab, how much time they spend doing other things. And for me also, so it served almost like a filter, I guess, because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do graduate school. And I also wasn't sure in what area of civil engineering I wanted to specialize in. So with when I did undergraduate research, I noticed that I really did like geotechnical engineering, which is a field of civil engineering. And I also realized that I did want to continue doing research and go to graduate school. I didn't take a gap year. I think what I wish that I would have known at the beginning is would have known at the beginning is that it could be overwhelming at times, but it's also okay to seek help, and that includes for both peers and for your professors, especially in these uncertain times. There's so many things going on, and don't be afraid to get personal with a professor or with peers and talk through anything that you might be going through, because everybody is kind of cheering for you, especially in graduate school. You got in for a reason, and they want to keep you there, and they want to make sure that you succeed. So I graduated from grad school already. I did my master's, and that's what I wanted to do. And that was the level that I was comfortable in doing. And so, like I said, now I'm working full time at a private engineering firm that specializes in geotechnical engineering, which is a subset of civil engineering. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. And still to this day, I'm learning a lot, and I'm working with very knowledgeable and supportive people around me. So I really enjoy my job so far. What advice would you give to someone who's considering? So I think it's important to weigh out your options and see what aligns best with your current circumstances. So some people are mentioning going to graduate school or considering graduate school is not a linear trend. So some people take gap years, other people do other work experience. So just kind of weigh out your options, see if graduate school right now is the best time to do it, and if not, it's okay. Just know that if you're considering grad school, it'll probably always be an option for you, and so make sure to take that decision whenever you feel the most comfortable with it. And also that in graduate school you will be challenged, but it'll be worth it. And at the end of the day, you get through it, and you learn so much, and you appreciate all the struggles that you went through to get there.
Great, thank you. Next
Thank you.
Tony.
Hey again. So participating in undergraduate research, I have so much to thank to camp for, even just that they were kind of really instrumental in me being able to participate in general. I was really poor when I was at Davis, and so that small stipend was just enough to like feed myself and also participate in research. So it was really great, and I kind of developed the skills and the confidence in lab. So that like it was during I think the summer of my first year at Davis, I took an internship, and I was working in a lab, and by the end of summer, I had a patent. It was I don't think anybody expected that, especially me, but I really owe it to just undergrad research and making me feel comfortable in lab, and also just for kind of arming me with the skills that I'm still using in lab today. I did take a gap year. If you might remember, I kind of had a shift in priorities when I was applying to school, so I took a gap year to kind of figure things out. I spent most of my gap year on the Sacramento River working, inspecting water quality, and it was awesome. It was so fun, and I definitely would do it again. Especially in grad school, you don't have a lot of time to pursue things that you might find fulfilling other than your work. And so I'm just really glad I was able to spend time outdoors and like drive a boat around. It was a lot of fun. So I wish I knew going in that we shouldn't, going into the grad program, that the experience is very individual for everybody. I was constantly comparing myself to others and just feeling, terrible that I wasn't having some of the same experiences or just the ease that some of the other students in my cohort were having. And it took a lot of kind of just talking to different people to figure out like, hey, this is a very individual thing. It's going to be individual for you. So just do your best. And that's essentially all there is. Do your best. And that's all anybody can ask for, really. My plans after graduate school are I want to get into industry. I'm really passionate about helping people through medicine. And so a lot of people have also said this, and I want to echo it. Have, I guess, a reason, something like you, everybody in my cohort that I've talked to has thought about just mastering out, just leaving with a master's and not pursuing the PhD at least once. And so for me, it's helpful. Like I look at a photo of my parents, and when I'm not feeling very motivated, and it just helps remind me of why I'm here, what I'm doing this for. And I want to help people, including them. So have that something maybe solid or at least concrete to kind of fall back on during those hard times. Some advice, I'm going to give you all some pragmatic advice. As you're applying and contacting these departments, ask them how COVID has impacted some of the processes like visitation, rotations in different labs, if that's something your major does, and classes. I'm seeing here at UCLA, some of the first year students are kind of getting the short end of the stick because these policies are constantly changing. And I think it's just good information to seek out before you actually decide to attend a certain graduate school.
Great advice. Thank you, Tony. Julia?
All right. But now I think we're missing Christopher.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I skipped right over. Go ahead, Christopher. Thank you.
No worries. We're getting short on time, huh? I'll keep it really short.
Thank you.
Participation in undergraduate research. Yeah, absolutely. Through it and with it, I feel like I was prepared to enter graduate school. My undergraduate PI, Dr. Joanna Chu, really didn't really think of us as undergraduates. She really treated us as, scientists. And I think that really prepared us through a lot. And I feel like I personally got a lot of different experiences, preparing for lab meetings, conducting a project by myself, and even preparing, figures for a manuscript. So I think the top quality of research at UC Davis really helped me to be where I am today. For those, I took a gap year before going to community college, and I think it really helped to kind of just get away from school for a little bit. And I think, for those that are, went from high school straight into college, straight into graduate school, I can imagine that must be pretty like tiring and exhausting. And so I think for me, it helped to like really get refreshed. And I came into community college with like a renewed determination for schooling. And I think that really helped propel me into UC Davis, which is where, I had probably like the best years of my schooling in terms of like grades and just research in general. So I would definitely recommend it if it aligns with like what you want. And I think it just gives you a different experience and kind of, maybe expose you to something you might not have experienced if you had just gone straight into graduate school. What do you know now? I think that one thing would just, being able to like take care of yourself. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think my first year, I'd be waking up for like classes to do like extra work, which isn't bad, but, I think it just really burned me out my first year. So, I think there's definitely like trying to figure out, a balance for yourself and taking care of yourself, like mentally, holistically, whether that's like exercise or like cooking or like a hobby or just, staying in touch with friends and family, which, it's going to be a long stretch. So just kind of know what you're signing up for. And like many people said, just getting as much information as you can about what it's actually going to be like. Really ask like the tough questions. Plans for after graduate school. I feel really inspired by all the help and all the like help that I've gotten throughout my life, and I feel very compelled to give back to you know, students that are less fortunate. You know, I feel like I've been very blessed in my life, and you know, I hope to be able to like impact, you know, like students, whether it's at the community college level or at, you know, like a university level. But I hope to be able to be a professor as well, and be able to give back in that way, and really kind of use my like life experiences, and you know, like the life experience of all these people here. You know, it's truly amazing, just you know, what people have had to like go through to be where they are. So this has honestly been really inspiring to me to hear the stories of these people. What advice would you give to someone considering graduate school? Yeah, ask the tough questions. You know, don't be afraid. People will shoot you straight if you ask them. And if they don't, then they're, you know, you should ask someone else, because everyone will have something good or something, you know, maybe more a criticism to share. So really just get full picture before jumping into something that's 4 to 5 years long. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Celia.
All right. Okay, yeah, my participation in undergraduate research was a huge force in getting me into graduate school. Like I said, my field is kind of small, and I would have never been equipped with enough information to really kind of motivate myself and feel confident at all going into graduate school in the field that I'm in. And I think it's even cooler. I think that's one of the things that I really like, is that it's such a fast growing field, and I feel like I'm really a part of it. So yes, undergraduate research was the thing to do for me. I did not take a gap year between finishing undergrad and going into grad school, but like I said, I took a pretty long gap between starting undergraduate and finishing undergraduate. I worked full time. I don't think that I could do it any other way, because that's how I really learned the value of my time. And I learned what it is that I wanted out of life. And I figured out it wasn't what I was doing. I got a chance to think about it as an adult. And then I made the choice very deliberately to go back to school. So that's just the way that I had to do it. What do I know now that I wish I had known? I wish in my first year of grad school, I would have really took it to heart that you do not have to be a PhD when you enter your PhD program. That is what you're working towards. You don't need to know everything. Even when you finish PhD program, I certainly won't know everything. Nobody will. But so I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I wish I wouldn't have. I'm still working on that. That's something you have to kind of consistently work through. My plans for after graduate school, I'm definitely excited and looking forward to getting some postdocs. Kind of like some of our other panelists had mentioned, I'm really passionate about teaching, and I'm really excited to be a professor. I want to continue research, but I also want to have a good balance of being a good professor. And advice that I would give to someone considering graduate school is that think about your reasons why. But also, if you want to go to graduate school and that is a good thing to do for your field and to push yourself forward, go for it. Like, graduate school is not some secret club that only is meant for a select group of people. Graduate school is meant for anybody who wants to go to graduate school because they're really passionate and interested in what they're doing. So if you want to go and you love what you're beginning to research, I think you should go for it.
Great, thank you. Arturo?
Okay. So how did you well, like I mentioned at first, it was the main reason how I even got into my graduate program. Without me participating in undergraduate research, I wouldn't have gone to SACNAS, and I wouldn't have gone to University of Connecticut. So basically, the entire reason I'm in my PhD program is because I did undergraduate research. Like many of the previous people who talked about this, I did not take a gap year. I felt like I had already wasted enough time with that one semester I took off working in the field, and did not want to waste more time, because I want to get this done before the age of 30, which Let's hope that happens. Who knows? We'll see. What do you know? So I wish I knew that classes weren't. So I guess I should say that graduate school classes aren't really meant to teach you everything about your field. They're more just to kind of refresh you on things that you might have forgotten. Your actual learning happens in the lab. So don't go into classes thinking, oh, I'm gonna learn everything that there is in my field, because it's more of just letting you know how much you don't really know and allowing you to expand yourself in the lab. Yeah, which also helps with failure projects, because it's just learning happening. You have to fail in order to learn. Your plans after graduate school. So I do want to teach. So that is the end goal. I do want to teach. However, I feel like there might be some benefit to me going into industry to try to see if I can help and develop some of the technologies that I'm learning at the moment and implement them into industry to try to see if we can reduce the total chemical waste that we're producing for pharmaceuticals and other chemical processes that we're doing. But then after that, probably going into community college teaching, since that's where I started. What advice would you give someone? It's going to be tough. There's no easy way of putting it. You will fail a lot, and it will seem like that you should quit at the moment. Just don't let that take your mind over. You will persevere. Push through it. Yeah, I mean, everybody else kind of covered everything else that you could say for that question at the end.
Awesome. Sorry, I have a phone going in the background, but thank you so much to our panelists. I really appreciate you sticking with us, especially we've gone way over, but I would like to open it up for questions for anyone who has questions at this time. And if so, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. You can also drop the question in the chat too, and Dee, if you could also get the chat room, that would be great.
So I see a question, is there an application for camp? Yes, we have inspired somebody to sign up.
Yes, and I can answer that question. Yesterday was the deadline to apply to camp. So we are going through a recruitment process, but we will have another opportunity in the spring for you to apply. So definitely. And because I'm sharing my screen, well, actually, let me just.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Let me interrupt, sorry. So like as an undergraduate, like I feel like we're always kind of trying to take advantage of like extra opportunities and being involved with more different types of, experience than just going to class. As a graduate student, do you feel like you have enough time for that kind of involvement? Because it seems like you were all involved like in undergraduate research or like summer programs. So do you still have that opportunity or even that time?
So personally, not as much as I would like to. I do try to participate in science balls that they have in the region that I'm in. So I help with middle school and high school students participating in some science competitions, just to try to get people more interested in the science. But I do not obviously your PhD program takes most of your time. So not as much as I would like to, but I still do have time to do stuff like that.
May I speak, ma'am, if that's all right?
Yes, go ahead, David.
First off, I just want to say, honestly, how disappointed I am that the deadline has happened. I'm honestly, I'm just now hearing this, and that's incredibly, incredibly disheartening. Like, may I ask, what is the current, what are the statistics on your applications this year? Because I had no clue what camps was until like a week ago, and your application is already closed, and we're having this entire seminar and the application is far gone. It's like I personally am a senior. I transferred, and I literally got not even fully two sessions in person before we went online, and it's just I'm curious, what is the show out for this program as a result of COVID, and are there any appeals for this application?
So thank you, David, for that. I do want to say we did spread the net out there pretty far and wide. We sent it to several groups and to faculty to also spread the word. The information was also on our website. And we did have some students who saw it, but unfortunately did not apply. It is likely that, because you're not the only one who also expressed concern about this, we had several workshops where we talked about our program, et cetera. But it is possible that we may be able to extend it. The application is not a huge application. It may take you 5 minutes to fill out, 5-10 minutes, so it's not major. And it is unfortunate that this is how you're first hearing about it. But again, a lot of this information can be found on the website too. The deadline was Monday night, so last night at midnight was the deadline to apply. So again, here we are. It's just a day later. It's just a day later, so we could possibly extend that. But I, first of all, need to talk to our director to see if we're able to do that. And I say that because we only have so many spots, especially for the scholar positions that are paid positions. So we did get a phenomenal number of students who did apply to the program. So I just want to put that out there. And if you could, you can contact urc@ucdavis.edu, or what I'll do is I'll drop my email address in the chat so we don't have to actually continue taking up time here, but you can contact me directly and then we'll go from there. And I want to extend my email address to anyone who is interested, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Also, to David, sorry, just as a quick note, if research is what you want to be involved in, camp is a great way to get that started, but it doesn't mean that you have to be in camp to do undergraduate research. I started my undergraduate research when I did not know about camp either. And I still would have gotten a really helpful experience had I not been involved in camp. So I still just want to encourage you to try to be involved in undergrad research, even if you're not able to join camp this year.
Thank you, Julia. I appreciate that. And there are a number of programs too. So I do want to put that out there since it was brought up. There are a lot of different programs. Some are very specific to certain majors. So if you go onto our website, urc.ucdavis.edu, and you type in matrix, it will bring up a list of all of the research programs that are currently on campus. So we have the McNair Scholars Program, UC Leads, MURPPS, Merrill's, camp, et cetera. So it's not just this particular program, but again, you can get credit, unit credit also for doing research. You do not have to belong to a particular program. The students here just all happen to be from either camp or MURPPS. They're alumni from the program, and they're all first generation students. So, you know, I just wanted to put that out there. And thank you, David. I appreciate your question. Any other questions? Okay, so I do, again, I want to thank you all for sticking around. It's almost 9 o'clock. So thank you for your time. Oh, I did mention I would put my email address in the chat. So let me do that right now. I have to stop sharing my screen in order to do that. So I will go ahead and put that in the chat for all of you. Feel free to contact me if you have questions about the programs, about the Undergraduate Research Center. And also, just really quickly, for the panelists, I want to thank you for your time today and just for sharing this information. You've been wonderful. And also, if you are okay, I'd like to be able to also provide your email addresses, if that's okay with you, so other people can contact you if they have additional questions. Is that okay? Thumbs up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, before we all leave, can we do just like a photo, like a screen capture, so we can all have a just a memory. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, let me see, make sure I do this right. And can somebody else also do the same thing too? Just because I want to make sure I get it.
All right, on 3. Ready? 1, 2.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to say good night and end it there. And thank you again to our panelists.